Welcome to A1 Storyteller, the channel where the stories come alive and the twists are so unexpected they leave you on the edge of your seat. Today we're diving into a powerful and inspiring journey of brilliance, resilience, and overcoming the odds. Meet Arielle Monroe, a young black student stepping into the hallowed halls of one of the most prestigious universities in the world, Winthrop University. But this isn't your typical college story. From the moment Arielle walks onto campus, she faces not only the usual challenges of being a student, but the harsh realities of racial prejudice, elitism, and discrimination. Little do her professors know, though, that Arielle isn't just another student. She's a genius in disguise, capable of outsmarting the best minds in mathematics. What happens when the brightest mind in the room isn't who they expect? Get ready for a roller coaster of intellect, revenge, and redemption. Elite professors try to humiliate a black student. Have no idea she's a math genius. Let's begin this unforgettable journey. The gates of Winthrop University stood tall like ancient monuments, their wrought iron bars entwined with decades-old ivy. Beyond them stretched cobblestone paths, pristine green lawns, and towering buildings wrapped in columns and colonial prestige. It wasn't just a university, it was a fortress of legacy. Arielle Monroe stood at the threshold, duffel bag on one shoulder, a suitcase rolling behind her, and a quiet fire burning in her eyes. She paused, breathing in the air. Not just the crisp scent of fall leaves, but the thick air of expectation, class division, and invisible hierarchies. She could feel the stares already. Students walked by in pressed khakis, Ralph Lauren polos, and pastel sweaters tied around their necks. Some offered polite nods. Most looked right through her. A few gave sideways glances, the kind that said, "You sure you belong here?" But Arielle didn't flinch. She was used to this, the doubt, the second-guessing. Growing up in East Atlanta, raised by a single mom who worked 2 jobs and still made time to teach her multiplication tables by candlelight during power outages, this wasn't the hardest room she'd ever had to walk into. What they didn't know, she wasn't just smart. She was lethal with numbers, a mind like a razor, the kind of girl who solved puzzles for fun and saw calculus as art. She wasn't here to be accepted. She was here to dominate. The first class of the semester was Advanced Theoretical Mathematics, held in a grand lecture hall with carved mahogany walls and a chandelier that looked like it cost more than Arielle's entire neighborhood. Professor Reginald Hawthorne made his entrance like a monarch. Gray suit, gold-rimmed glasses, and an expression carved from stone. His reputation preceded him, a Rhodes Scholar, Harvard alum, published in every major mathematics journal. But what the faculty didn't put on the website? He was a gatekeeper. And if you didn't fit his mold, rich, white, male, legacy, he made your academic life a living hell. He sauntered to the blackboard and scribbled a monster of a formula, something that looked like a tangled equation tree layered in multiple integrals and nested functions. "Let's begin with an intellectual warm-up," he said, voice smooth but sharp. "This should separate the real minds from the inflated resumes." Silence. Eyes darted around. No one moved. Arielle glanced at the board, immediately seeing the hidden symmetry. It was elegant beneath the chaos, a trick designed to intimidate. She raised her hand. Head snapped toward her. A few snorted. One girl leaned over and whispered, "She's joking, right?" Professor Hawthorne turned, almost amused. "You believe you can solve this?" Arielle stood, walked to the board calmly, picked up the chalk and started writing. She didn't hesitate. While others froze under pressure, she entered what her high school teacher once called the zone. Her eyes danced, her hands flowed, and in minutes the equation unraveled. When she stepped back, the solution was not only correct, it was beautiful. Simplified in fewer steps than expected. The class was stunned into silence. Professor Hawthorne cleared his throat, eyes narrowing slightly. "What's your name?" "Arielle Monroe." He didn't smile. "Well, Miss Monroe, we'll see if you can keep that up." She returned to her seat. But everyone in that room now knew this girl wasn't just another student. Arielle's first week should have been a celebration. Instead, it turned into an invisible war. Professor Hawthorne never called on her again, even when her hand was the only one raised. He returned her assignments with red ink flooding the margins, nitpicking every detail. "You skipped a step here," he'd say, pointing at a solution that was still correct. "But the logic is clean," Arielle would respond. "I said you skipped a step," he'd repeat, final and cold. She overheard whispers in the cafeteria. She must have had help. No way she solved that herself. She probably got in through a diversity scholarship. Even in study groups, classmates often ignored her contributions, until they'd realized later that her suggestions were the only ones that worked. The real blow came in Professor Caldwell's class, a co-instructor with Hawthorne and equally as elitist. During a group presentation, Arielle led a flawless explanation of probability theory and Bayesian inference, but after class, Caldwell pulled her aside. "You're articulate," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "For someone with your background." She stared at him. "Excuse me? You know. Public school, urban, environments. Impressive effort." It wasn't praise, it was a warning. They were watching her, testing her, waiting for her to stumble. But Arielle didn't fold. She spent nights in the library, early mornings rewriting code, weekends poring through 50-year-old math journals, drawing connections others hadn't even noticed, and she began working on something in secret, her own theory. By mid-semester, Arielle dropped a bomb. She submitted a paper to Hawthorne and Caldwell for peer review, a groundbreaking approach that streamlined the notoriously complex multivariable tensor field theory into a digestible model. It had the potential to change the way data science handled chaos systems and random noise. It was genius. And it scared them. The next day, she received an email marked, "Urgent. Please appear before the Academic Integrity Board on Wednesday." She blinked. Attached was a formal accusation, plagiarism. They claimed her theory was too advanced for an undergraduate, that the logic mirrored another unpublished thesis, which she had never seen, that it was statistically improbable she'd developed it alone. She walked into the hearing, heart pounding but chin high. 3 professors sat behind the table, all white, all male. Caldwell smirked. Hawthorne leaned back like a judge in his courtroom. "Explain your process," one demanded. So she did, from memory. She laid out her thought trail step by step, referenced supporting theorems, and even recreated part of the model on the whiteboard using a simplified proof. For 30 minutes the room was silent, awed, but unwilling to admit it. When she finished, Hawthorne tapped a pen against his notebook. "Thank you, Ms. Monroe. We'll deliberate and notify you of our decision." Arielle stood. She met each of their eyes. "You don't want the truth. You want obedience." Then she walked out. But what she didn't know, someone had been watching. Dr. Evelyn Rousseau had sat in the back row, hidden in plain sight, and she had just found the voice she'd been waiting for. It was Dr. Evelyn Rousseau, one of the only black tenured professors on campus, a quiet force in the world of applied math. "I saw your paper," she said softly. "It's genius. And they're trying to bury it." Arielle sat, stunned. Finally, someone believed her. Rousseau pulled out a flash drive. "There's a conference in 2 weeks, MIT. The world's top mathematicians will be there. Submit your paper anonymously. Let the work speak for itself." Arielle nodded. She would, because it wasn't just about proving herself anymore. It was about changing the game. 2 weeks later, the air outside the MIT Conference Center was brisk, buzzing with scholars from around the globe. The International Symposium on Mathematical Theory wasn't just any event. It was the place where the world's greatest minds converged. Nobel Prize winners, field medalists, professors from Ivy Leagues. This was sacred ground for mathematicians. Inside a large white banner read, "Redefining the Future. Advancing Mathematical Frontiers." Arielle stood near the back, her lanyard marked only with the name A. Monroe, keeping her identity guarded. Her paper, submitted anonymously at Dr. Rousseau's advice, had been assigned a keynote slot under a new theory now nicknamed by buzzworthy whispers, the Monroe method. When her work was finally presented, not by her but by the lead MIT organizer, the auditorium went dead silence. On the screen, equations moved like poetry. Logic unfolded with elegance. Complex multidimensional models were reduced with a simplicity no one had seen before. People leaned forward in their chairs. Notebooks flipped open, phones recorded. As the MIT scholar closed the session, he said, "This is the future. Whoever Monroe is, they've just shifted the ground beneath us." The room broke into loud, stunned applause. Professors stared at one another, whispering, "How did we miss this?" Then the organizer took the mic again. "We've just received a request. The author is here and would like to present." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, and from the back of the hall, Arielle stood. As she walked to the stage, gasps erupted, phones rose into the air. Someone in the front row whispered, "She's just a student." She took the mic with calm, focused eyes and said, "I'm Arielle Monroe, and this paper is the result of being silenced, questioned, and underestimated. But numbers don't lie. Logic doesn't discriminate. And math? Math is mine too." Thunderous applause. For 40 minutes, she explained the thought process behind her model. Methodical, clear, elegant. And when she finished, the crowd rose to its feet. A Nobel Prize winner shouted, "That's genius." Another murmured, "She's rewriting the textbook." Arielle stepped off the stage as cameras swarmed. She didn't smile yet, because the real war hadn't even begun. Back at Winthrop University, the math department woke up to a headline. Anonymous MIT math genius revealed, 19-year-old black student from Winthrop University stuns world. The school was not prepared. Emails flooded the president's inbox. News vans parked at the gates. Students shared videos from the MIT conference that went instantly viral. Arielle's Twitter, once quiet, now had 200,000 followers over. But the bigger story was the leaked emails. A student journalist had hacked into the department's internal server. What they found was damning. Professor Hawthorne mocking Arielle's paper as affirmative action garbage. Dr. Caldwell suggesting we might need to tank her GPA to protect the department's integrity. Evidence that faculty had conspired to deny her awards and scholarships. The university tried to contain the fire, but it was too late. A national petition calling for Hawthorne and Caldwell's resignation hit 1.3 million signatures in 48 hours. CNN invited Arielle for an interview. On live television, she said, "They tried to bury me, but they didn't realize I'm a seed." By the end of the week, both professors were suspended indefinitely pending investigation, and Winthrop was now in survival mode. After the storm, something changed in the atmosphere at Winthrop. Students of color who had once hidden in the corners of classrooms walked with their heads a little higher. Study groups began forming around Arielle's dorm. She wasn't just a student anymore, she had become a symbol. She received calls from NASA, inviting her to consult on quantum orbital simulations, Harvard and Stanford offering her full rides for grad school, Netflix offering to license her story, and even a billionaire tech mogul asking, "Would you consider starting your own think tank?" But Arielle declined. For now, she turned to Dr. Rousseau one evening and said, "I don't want to run. I want to finish what I started." So she stayed. She launched a new initiative called STEM Reimagined, backed by a $1 million grant she secured through a Google Foundation. It was aimed at building pipelines for marginalized students into elite STEM fields. She hosted weekend boot camps, paired first-year students with mentors, and demanded that the school change its curriculum to be more inclusive. One day, in the same lecture hall where Hawthorne had once humiliated her, she stood before a full class as a guest lecturer. Her first line? "Today we'll discuss power and how it's often mistaken for position instead of potential." The room erupted in applause. Graduation day came with a different kind of energy. Sunlight bathed the campus in golden light. The air was filled with cheers, and the front lawn was a sea of families, some wealthy, others humble. In the front row sat Arielle's mother, wearing the same church hat she wore to Arielle's high school graduation. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Arielle walked the stage slowly, savoring each step. When the dean called her name, the crowd rose in unison. But the loudest voice, her father, booming, "That's my baby girl." She accepted her diploma, smiling for the first time in weeks, not from victory, but from liberation. Then, as valedictorian, she took the podium one last time. She scanned the audience. To the side sat President Rawlins, looking both proud and regretful. Behind him, Dr. Rousseau, smiling like a mother, and she began. "There's a formula we learn early in mathematics. When things don't balance, you adjust the equation. That's what I had to do here at Winthrop. I didn't just come here to learn. I came here to make the space I never had, for girls like me, for thinkers like me, for the ones who speak in logic when the world answers with noise." She held her diploma high. "This isn't a piece of paper, it's proof that no matter how elite the room is, genius doesn't need permission to walk in." The crowd roared. And just like that, Arielle Monroe left that stage not as a student, but as a movement. And that, my friends, is where the power of perseverance and intellect truly shines. Arielle Monroe has not only proven that brilliance cannot be confined by the biases of those who wish to suppress it, but she has paved the way for others who feel invisible in the world of academia and beyond. As she walks away from Winthrop University, it's clear that this is just the beginning of her legacy, a legacy that will shake the very foundation of elitism, challenge outdated systems, and inspire the generations to come. But this story doesn't end here. Arielle's journey has only just begun, and who knows what challenges or triumphs she'll face next. Be sure to stay tuned, subscribe to A1 Storyteller, and turn on notifications because you won't want to miss the next chapter of this gripping saga. Until next time, keep striving for greatness, and remember, there's power in knowledge, and no one can silence the truth.